Sir, that was I think that was probably that was an amazing talk. That was an amazing talk. And so we'll go into Q&A session. Actually, if it's okay, I'd like to ask the first question because so one of the things that you had said at the beginning of your talk that kind of got me was we have seen these UAP events, right? And I think we've all followed the news cycle on those. What you're describing, though, is that these are not discrete events. You're saying that these are part of a coordinated surveillance program of the Earth. Is that correct?
That is correct, but that may be only dealing with a category of UFOs.
Okay. I just
in other words, in order to work out the model, we were dealing with data going back to the 1880s, which was pre-aeronautical. For example, triangular craft back in 1895 in Scotland and also in the Far East and in Indonesia. And there's multiple witness reports of triangular craft back in that period. So it's 140 years ago or something.
So that adds a lot of context, and that was why I'd asked, right? Because I think the context that we've had so far has been, okay, we have these discrete events, and I think we get this impression, right? Like there seems to be this nuclear correlation that's happening, but it's very much here and there and everywhere. And what you're describing is something that's far more coordinated, I guess, and which is intriguing. So
yeah, indeed.
Well, so let me go to questions, and let me see. I'm going to set this so that folks can unmute themselves, but I'm going to go down the list. Let me go to Remy Cornwell first, and I want to thank Remy. Remy was the person who got me in touch with you, and so Remy, thank you, and go ahead, sir.
Hello, Tim, and hello, Eamonn.
Hi, Remy.
Hi there. It's a brilliant discussion. It's really you covered all the bases there. Now, we all met you a few years ago. I think it was Glastonbury or Pusey. Yes. The first thing I just Pusey. Your papers for the scalar wave near field device. If you have any of those, please, could you put them up for perusal, please? That would be great. And now, what you're talking about faster than light communication. Well, I've been working the system. It's very, how do I put it, very standard, because it's based on experimental facts. It's based on essentially coincidence counting. And after the wave function collapses, you can't, for instance, if you say have single photon entanglement, when the wave function collapses, it has to go down one path or the other. And because of the coincidence counting, yes, it happens instantaneously. You can see when you tally up the experiment afterwards, you see that there's no kind of half photon, yes? So I've been working on that system, and I've done a lot of theory on that and been up against the big box. And as you were saying, they have a closed mindset, yes? You can prove that no mathematics is wrong, and they've got their pet theory, and they're stuck in this differential equation mode, local effect. This idea that if you have a ripple, it has to knock on the next bit of space-time, the next bit of space-time, yes? And they're not really understanding at all that these effects, there's no differential relation. When you shake something here, it shakes the other side of the universe instantaneously, and they can't get their minds around that, and it scares the hell out of them. Why? I don't know. I don't know why. It's just a phenomenon. You deal with it, and you understand it. Just a few points you mentioned. I don't want to rabbit on for too much. I've just got a few notes here. Regarding these communications and telepathy. Now, as you know, you may remember Martin Colburn and our little gang when we go down there to these places. Now, I'm not saying whom, because you're very concerned with these NGOs. The idea is to keep it away from the government, to keep it away from the military, because nobody apparently wants to admit they've had any contact. People who are contactors that don't want to admit it because they'll be jumped on immediately. They may even disappear, right? But I know someone in the circle who set up a meeting in Kent. You showed that track where it comes in from Ireland, flies all over the UK, right down to Italy. There's a particular area down Kent, just about 40, 50 miles from me.
Mhm.
It's got stones older than Stonehenge. The whole area is sort of religious zone. It's been a focus for millennia. In fact, it's where the Stone Age culture came into Britain, and farming and so forth.
That's
And
right.
you can see standing, yeah, you can
There
see
is a-
standing stone.
There is about a 40% correlation with the tracks. Sorry, the megaliths. I mean, there's a 40% correlation with the megaliths. You know, using the tracks.
It's almost something like
so therefore, that would make sense with the track running through the location that you just mentioned.
Yeah, it's almost something like also Sprat Zarathustra. You know, the bit with the monolith and the ape men. It's something that they're directing us, or they're watching us, maybe both. They're moving us in our development, because, as I say, that's the area where modern culture, the Stone Age, came into Britain, and everything developed from there on. The area's got a lot of paranormal activity. There's ghost sightings, all kinds of strange things. Yes, and they fly right over the bridgeway of the South Downs. So I think some gifted people are able to pick up the signals, because, as I say, I'm not saying whom, but someone picked up a communication back in 1993, and they went at precisely the time in the morning to see a UAP, and it was seen all over Kent, and it was in the local newspapers, all the way from Deal, all the way up to the Medway. People saw this thing, yes, and it landed very near these megaliths, and they were very scared. They scarpered. But that's all I'm prepared to say about it, because I don't want people. They probably are. They're probably military, are probably watching people because of the technology angle that they want to get a hold of. But Eamonn, I think it's enough. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're
Great
welcome.
meeting. Yeah, great presentation. Top notch.
Thank you.
Top notch. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Well, Remy, thank you, sir, as well.
That's all right, Tim.
Let me go to Kate next. Kate, do you think I can ask you to turn on your camera?
Oh, no, I'm shy. I'm really shy. I'm sorry. So first off, I love the presentation. I think you're spot on in a lot of the stuff you say. I do have friends working in the field. And as someone who is involved in different areas of the UAP communities, the problem I find is that the information is so fragmented. As you are probably aware of, there is a big disclosure community out there. And so, and there are different aspects of government that do already have communications with ET intelligence. So from my understanding within certain communities is, yes, you can communicate with your mind and utilizing sort of those old world powers. Have you thought about going more into some of the disclosure community, because the surveillance is very large there? People actually are noting when certain activities are happening. 3 a.m. is a prime time. And there's different, I don't know, because like this communication to me, I know I have friends working in all sorts of fields, is already happening, but everyone's information is so private and exclusive.
Yeah.
But you have the first presentation that I've seen that have tied a lot of this together, but I do feel it's missing the fact that there's already communication happening with different groups and with governments.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but you know, I was only giving a presentation for an hour. I could go on for 10 hours actually. But anyway, just taking your point there, Kate, in order to, there's quite a lot of people that have wide sensory systems. And, you know, besides the so-called contactees to do with UFOs, you have to be able to differentiate the different channels of communication when you're taking this spectrum, if you like to call it, of consciousness. So, you know, from one far end, extreme end of the spectrum, you'd have the channelers, okay? And then at the other extreme end, you have the people that have physical encounters in groups. and particularly in South America, this happens. So what I find fascinating is how the CIA is relying on channelers for the communications. And it's been proven time again that you're dealing with your higher self, you're dealing with other entities, which it's not what you should be dealing with. I'm really surprised actually that what I know of so far, that some governments are using channelers for this.
They definitely are. And actually, my friend just made a documentary that the CIA took one guy who was doing a lot of telepathy. They kind of brought him into the CIA in South America, but a lot of channelers I know are very strong in different communities within communication.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's actually, in other words, to develop, as I would call it, a communications operative for, say, this global type of approach, you need to select the right human beings that have the right resonance for this. You can't have a scattered situation or complete random confusion. This is the approach I would take for this. So there's very much a selection process, rather like selecting astronauts, but to have the right resonance for this particular approach in communication. So
there is a bit of a community in Los Angeles. Should you come out, I'd be happy to introduce you.
Oh, okay.
Involved in.
Oh, okay. Well, Kate, thank you. Let me move along to Mikhail. And again, Kate, thank you again. Mikhail, would you like to go, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Thank you very much.
Oh, wonderful. And you have your camera on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, great presentation. I really appreciate your time. First thing, there are two questions that I really want to ask. One is about SETI. In terms of SETI, you did definitely speak about in terms of coverage of what exactly they're doing as an aspect. But what I want to really know is, in my research in terms of SETI, is they're always focused on a certain part of the sky for a certain period of time with multiple telescopes and so forth. Have you been ever engaged with SETI in terms of experiment or research in, rather than exploring your dividend space, but non-linear objects entering the atmosphere? That's what I want to. And my second question is in terms of well, that's my first question. Anyways, we'll continue on that part. No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, on the first question, Mikhail, no, I've never actually been involved in SETI, although I'm in the SETI fraternity, where I'd be meeting SETI astronomers or physicists or whatever, once a year, or giving presentations and publication. So no, I haven't been involved in any of their experiments as such. To answer your first question, okay. What was your second question?
My second question is, when you spoke about the 1895 triangle, can you elaborate more on any research have you done on it? Because when you said about the 1895, when you started in your presentation, you did speak about the 1895 triangles. Can you elaborate? Did you do any research on that part? I just want, if you have more information on that, if you can elaborate.
Yeah, I'm actually relying on others. Okay, and in fact, I'm a co-author of a book that's been published now. It's an academic book called Extraterrestrial Intelligence, what was it? Academic and societal implications. But anyway, I have a chapter in there which brings in the triangles into this, going back to the 1890s. And I've actually cited the reference for this, okay? And I can't remember it off my head at the moment, but you'd have to send me an email. If you send me an email, I'll send you the details, okay? And you know yourself, Mikhail, there has been huge amount of work on the triangles, by NIDS back in the late 1990s to even I can't remember his name now, who wrote a book specifically on triangles. Yeah, so it's, yeah.
Yeah, so my last question for you, sir. My last question for you is in Snowdonia, a couple of years back, there were obviously coming back to the Stonehenge directed to Snowdonia Mountains. There were always the sightings of these lights coming in and out, orbs or other aspects. Sorry, who's this?
Sorry about that. Looks like we had a couple of folks who were unmuted here. Let me mute them out for you. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead, Mikhail.
Sir, my question for you is when you talk about Stonehenge, it's a very historic monument. But my question here for you is, in your any point of research or any people have you met, did they ever describe to you any kind of electromagnetic interference in whether it's electronic or spiritual or other aspect? Because there are certain aspects that I have seen is that when certain people go there, they have a certain different kind of experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to know that part.
Yes, I have actually, well, even just recently, just a month ago, because I'm actually located where where this in Lockheed, in fact. I intentionally relocated to the place, but just a month ago, yes, I came across two people that had witnessed a construct at Lockheed, and when they went back to their car, nothing was working. You know, the engine was working, but there was complete static on the radio, and they were absolutely puzzled. You know, so that's a very recent thing. So I'm actually in a remote area in how should I put it? I'm sort of reasonably well known in the community, and so I'm very lucky that people just come to me confidentially, and you know, so I think I've covered about 30 cases here in Lockheed, you know, altogether.
Would you mind if I come and meet you when I visit, because my family stays in the UK, so if I can find you, I can apparently understand that you wouldn't give me the contact right away, but yes, if I can.
Yeah, you know, and Mikhail, for something like that, it's probably best to email Dr. Ansbro, and that way you could coordinate that way.
Roger that,
Sure.
Tim. I completely understand.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir, and I really appreciate for your presentation.
Oh, and
Thanks,
Mikhail, thank you.
Mikhail. Thank you.
Thank you as well, Mikhail. Let me go to Michael Boyd next, sir.
Sir, thank you for your presentation. It's appreciated. I'm curious about the device that you were showing during your slides. One of them, it was some sort of antenna device, and I would appreciate if you would please explain in more detail what that device does, and specifically, I'm curious. I have experience with this measurements using what are called tunnel diodes, which are a quantum tunneling device, and I'm curious to know if you have, if your device is using some kind of quantum tunneling phenomena. So well, if you could give us, if you're allowed to give me more information, I would sincerely appreciate it.
Yeah, Michael, just to say to you at this point in time, Michael, that that was completely abandoned. It just, we had so much noise, we just had to give up. So we had to go to a fundamentally new approach to this. So that was a complete failure, although I had it up on the slide, but it was a good try. It cost a lot of money, but you know, we're not NASA funded or anything like that. But yeah, so we're fundamentally have taken a different approach to it. And my colleague, Dr. Hugh Deasy, is involved with me in the precursor development of experimental machine before the, you know, the QSC itself. We've got to make a breakthrough in the at one stage before we can do the QSC part. but we did have a major failure back a while back with what you're talking about to do with the antenna, to do with the whole system. But
well, failure's not an option; it's a learning experience. So,
Well, if I could jump in really quick, so and Michael, what you were asking about, actually, Herr Schwartz had a question in chat that tied directly into what you were asking about. He was asking about the QSC antenna and indicated that it operates at 1.5 gigahertz. And then he mentioned that there were some photos on the web showing toroidal coils around a cylinder. He's wondering, do you have more information that's available about the QSC device?
Well, as I just explained to Michael, Tim, we've abandoned that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, because it's creating these torsion fields, but it's trying to filter all that out was nearly impossible. And so we decided
a signal to noise problem. The noise
yes, big time. Yeah, big time.
Okay, and my apologies. I thought that was the I thought that was the old one.
So we're actually operating in well, we have a laboratory here, which the machine now is actually fundamentally very different. You know, you're talking about 3 meters across. This machine is big, and very, very different to what we were doing before. And in fact, Hugh Deasy, my colleague who was working with me, who will be the next speaker, can elaborate on it further, because we're both working together on it.
Could I say something on it now?
Yes, please do, Hugh. Yes.
Yes, well, it is quite a monster device, all right. And you've done great work on it, Eamonn, there, in constructing that according to my design. But the one key component that was missing in the whole system was a certain type of amplifier, which is not the normal amplifier, and also takes Doppler effects into account. So anyway, and we finally got a grant from the Irish
government,
Enterprise Ireland, to fund some engineers at the Munster University to implement this very special amplifier that we need for that system. And once we get that, it's like spoiling a ship for a hapworth of tar. You know, you have this monster built, and all you need is this amplifier. And once we plug that in, then we can really play.
How big is the amplifier?
It shouldn't be too big. It should be just
what about a foot?
Meant to replace a signal generator effectively. So it's roughly of the same dimensions as the signal generator.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you for your answer. I was just going to suggest, if you haven't looked at it, you look at something using tunneling, quantum tunneling, because that it enables you to communicate over a distance without time loss. Basically, the process of tunneling is instantaneous because it's using quantum entanglement of electrons.
Right. We are using a form of quantum communication, although this is one which is on the cutting edge, as it were, of science, and most scientists won't acknowledge this. It's probably because there's a shibboleth in there that they can't really confirm that this is possible. This is essentially a macroscopic quantum effect.
To the choir. You're preaching to the choir here.
Wonderful. Well, let me, Michael, thank you again, sir, and you, thank you as well. Let me go to Sam Thompson. He's had his hand up for quite a while. Sam, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, and sir, that was a fascinating presentation. Thank you so much. I'm just curious what you think the odds are that of all the intelligences that can communicate with humans, are they all benevolent in their intentions? And if not, then should we hesitate before trying to communicate with them?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, of course, you know, we do live in a, you know, a yin yang universe. So yeah, we're dealing with different frequencies here. And I think it's all down to, you know, like human beings, whatever they attract, you know, whatever resonance or frequency they're at in their growth, then attracts that particular frequency. Or that's the way I've noticed anyway, in through life experiences. So when you apply that to what we're trying to do for the extraterrestrial side of things, I think it's a similar situation. So as I mentioned to you earlier on, Sam, that it's training operatives to have the right resonance to attract, I was going to say, the right extraterrestrial group. So anyway, that's the theory. But you know, we just have to spearhead this, you know, I'm not too sure I'm answering your question fully there, but that's the principle that I'm applying.
Fingers
Anyway.
crossed.
What wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me go to Nick Kyle next, sir.
Hi,
there we go.
Eamonn. I've enjoyed your talk. I've heard a version of it once before. Unlike the previous questioners, I'm less interested in the technology and more interested in the manipulation of consciousness and what the structure of consciousness might be that would be effective. And I don't want to give away any information that you exchange with me confidentially. But if I bring in the keyword portals and put it beside consciousness, would you have anything to say that you've learned either from personal experience or from other work?
Yeah, I think, okay, as a scientist, I've had to expand my potentials, if you like to say. You know, I'm more of a natural scientist. I mean, I can do all the other sciences all right in the mechanistic area, but I'm more of a natural scientist where I can apply inner space, you know, to outer space, so to speak. So like you mentioned there, Nick, about portals, that as human beings, we do have the potential to create portals. You know, it's not, it's more of a metaphor, you could say. You know, when people say, oh, there's going to be a landing of a spacecraft, or, you know, it's like, we're the landing. I know it's a difficult to understand this, but we're actually the landing creating this. You know, we're manifesting everything out there. So anyway, let me try and get around to what you're on about, Nick. So portals don't necessarily have to be there. I mean, there are portals around, but we can actually create them as well. And I'll just say from personal experience, I've actually done that.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nick. Well, so let me do this. Let me do one more for Mikhail, and then I want to try and squeeze Franc Milburn in. And let me see, Frank is still with us. So we'll cut the Q&A session just a little bit short, if that's okay. But let me see. So Mikhail, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Tim. Sir, my question here is in terms of consciousness. Consciousness is a wide subject. You know, it's within us, it's beyond us. One thing that I have noticed in, you know, in I've been looking into Dr. Stephen Greer for a lot, and I hope you have done so. So my question is, you know, Dr. Stephen Greer states that, you know, in terms of consciousness, he says that, you know, if you pray for them, you know, Almighty, whoever they are, they might, you know, they just show up in the skies and so forth, and they flash their beautiful lights. My second question is, if the UAP is a technological advanced civilization, don't you think by the time they come down, let's say from Zeta Reticuli or Vega star system or anywhere else, the time?
You know, I think that we lost him. I think his connection just dropped. Eamonn, do you have any thoughts on what he said about Dr. Greer, or?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with the CE5 initiative, and okay, the process that one has to go through, the different levels in consciousness in order to, for the manifestation to happen. What I've noticed, and a common feature, is that it's like plasma, an intelligent plasma showing up. It doesn't necessarily mean it's an actual spacecraft as such. These would be like the orb, so to speak, all right? And the only weak link I see in the CE5 initiative, and I do respect there's an enormous amount of people that are applying these protocols, is that it's a very inefficient way of for the communication to take place. And that's why I mentioned earlier on about the co-creative scientific approach, which we'd actually applied this back in 1998, and I'll just share an example for you. It's a fairly involved, comprehensive approach to this, where you actually will get the result, and the result being not only do you get the day, but also the time as a group. And we actually did this back in February for the first time of 1998. So what we thought was an artificial satellite was slowly moving across the sky in the morning time. And then one of us, using this process, put out a mental focus showing the infinite sign. Now, this is a very rudimentary approach to this, but the receiver, the light that we thought might be a satellite, started slowly going into the figure 8, the infinite sign, over a period of about 3 minutes until a cloud passed by. But the point of this was that it showed that the process worked, and secondly, we actually got an intelligent confirmation. Now, as to was it a craft or not, I don't know, but we had our intent wasn't to link into a craft. That could have been done much later, and in fact, I did that. Well, I did it with a small group, which also worked with, well, we'll call it a construct.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. So Dr. Ansbro, I'm going to try and squeeze in Franc Milburn before Hugh speaks. So if it's okay, I'd like to end the Q&A session a little bit early.
I have a question too, Tim.
Yes, Paul.
You want me to say it now?
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering about the Pulsar network, where they have sent us a communication. What your comment is about that?
Thank you, Paul. I actually, thanks for sending the link on that. I am familiar with your work, and what surprises me, Paul, is that SETI, has SETI actually done anything about this? Have you approached SETI?
When I published my first book, I spoke to Seth Shotak, and he wasn't interested to even receive it. I wasn't going to ask him to pay for it. I was willing to send it. No interest. No. And now I have the paper published. I still haven't heard from them.
Paul, you may consider sending that to him again. I think that things have changed considerably.
Well, he has such an ego. I don't know if it's even worth dealing with the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tim. I think things have changed. In fact, I think I know 3 of the astronomers are warming to the UAP, and therefore I think what you've been doing, Paul, in your research, which has been fabulous, a lot of work I know you've done over the last 25 years or so, I think you ought to approach one of them again. Doesn't have to be Seth Shostak, but whoever whoever the main person is there, I just don't know.
Yeah, and do you guys want to,
By
you
the
know,
way,
I can ask
can I
Frank,
just-
let me ask Frank to wait for.
Sorry, can I just mention something else for Paul?
Go for it. Yeah, I won't cut things short.
You might have heard, this is sort of similar to your situation, Paul, but have you heard of Duncan Lunan?
Yes.
Duncan Luna, who wrote the book The Man and the Stars. He was the guy that came out with the, Epsilon Butai, where, well, I won't do all the details, but
quite a while back.
Yeah, we're talking about 1974, I think, roughly. Yeah. But he was in that position with the British Interplanetary Society. He was with the Jodrell Bank, the main guy there, God, I forget his name, Bernard Lovell. And he asked Bernard Lovell, look, this is the results I'm getting. Could you offer the big, which at the time I think was the biggest steerable radio telescope in the world, in Cheshire, to it? And he refused. So big disappointment for Duncan Lunan. He was amazed how he could, that happen. So I do appreciate where you're coming from, Paul. It's
if it's okay to ask, Paul, do you think that you could describe, because Dr. Ansbro, I know that you're familiar with Paul's work, but just Paul, for the audience, you talked about pulsars encoding signals as a network.
It's where they're positioned. They create certain geometrical relations for us. Also, the Fibonacci series is encoded in certain pulsar ratios. You find pi. You find they're pointing out the location of the galactic center for us and symbolically talking about a wave coming towards us or something occurring in the galactic center that has to do with our Earth. So they're apparently benevolent because they're trying to warn us about the galactic superwave phenomenon, which is something that affects all planets in the galaxy. And
I think
it would take a long time to go into more details. I could do a presentation, I suppose.
Yeah, I think another approach to this, Paul, where you'd have acceptable language, to the SETI folks. They don't have to be in the US. It could be Italian SETI or whatever. In Sardinia, they've got a big dish there. But it's actually approaching it in a different way, where it's more presentable. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a criticism, but I've been in those situations as well to do with SETI for other stuff. Maybe I should say it. I have been banned from conferences and rejected papers and all sorts of stuff over the years. So it's a common thing,
Well, I'm open to any suggestions of people to contact that you might have.
Okay, I must look into that for you, Paul. Sure.
Thank you.
And do remind me as well by email.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Wonderful. So yeah, again, I've asked Frank to wait if possible. If anyone else has any questions, let's squeeze those in. And again, my apologies. I'm trying to juggle the schedule a little bit. Does anyone else have any questions for Dr. Ansbro? Okay.
Just a quick one.
Yes.
2 points. Could you correlate any of those trajectories with ley lines? And a second one was, what was the second one there? Okay, first of all, that one, and I'll come up with the second one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have. Yeah, I looked into all different. How should I put it? Aspects around the Earth, to do with megaliths, to do with even modern constructions, highways and so forth. As to ley lines, I don't know. There's a bit more complex, that one. I mean, I really can't answer you on that one, Hugh. I mean, with
Fair enough. I'll go on to my second question then.
Well,
you were mentioning these radio astronomers not being so cooperative, but at that UK SETI meeting, there was the head of Jodrell Bank was there, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, but that's that's Michael Garrett. Yeah, he's got the chair. But I'm talking about Bernard Lovell back in 1974.
Yeah, but do you think that he nowadays he might be more amenable to it?
I think you may be right, Hugh, because I like your, well, I actually know Michael over many years, and I know where his philosophy and thinking is coming from. I didn't know Bernard Lovell; I was too young in those days. But it's a possibility, and I'm just thinking of Paul here on that one. But thank you for reminding me about Michael Garrett, who's the head of it. Yeah.
Wonderful. And so let me see. Let me ask for just, we have about 10 minutes left. If anyone else has any questions.
I do, Tim.
Oh yeah, go for it, Lulu. And welcome back. Welcome back to APEC.
Hi, how's everyone? I hope everyone's well. I have a question. You were talking about same occurrence in space and time, like it repeats itself events. Could you like tell me one event, or could we possibly go there on that time, that an event is supposed to happen, and be a part of that in a way?
Yeah, we've tried it in 27 locations with an 80% fit, like, confirmation. If this is what you're on about, in 7 countries, I think, altogether. We did most of this work in the late 1990s. So yeah, since then, I haven't done any research.
Like what occurred? Like what happened? Did the surrounding atmosphere change? What did you guys feel like, as being there in that space? Of occurrences happening over and over there. What did you guys experience?
Well, I think from where I was coming from, it was more of a scientific approach to it. With detection systems, I wasn't immersing myself into the human sort of side to it, and what effect it would have on.
Seeing something.
But
out of this world.
I do know of others. I do know of others, like in the Hestelin project, Project Hestelin. You may have heard of Dr. Massimo Teodorani, who was a radio astronomer, but he. I'll just give you an example of from your question, that is, how it affects some people, and these are scientists now. But there was a mission back in 2002 to Hestelin by Italian scientists in partnership with Norwegian, and this triangular craft appeared above them, and there was like complete silence from the craft, but also from all the individuals there. And the head person, the professor from, I forget what institute, but he had to be helped when they went back to the hotel, because he was shocked by what happened. His wife actually had to take care of him. It's like there are some people that are not ready for this when you have an otherworldly situation appearing and all the effects it has. It's really difficult to integrate that reality for some people.
Isn't that like part of being the next human generation, like part, the Kardashev scale? Isaac Arthur, and the explanation about, isn't that accepting that is a form of evolving, being able to comprehend it, being able to perceive it, being able to see, alternative light spectrums, the possibility of, like how we are right now as a community talking about a very specific topic. That in itself manifests our energy, biophotons, collectively. That in itself manifests these things. you know, if you want to call them. They're not things, they're a construct of us, you know, seekers, beyond just the perceivable, you know, a little bit deeper or above that. You know, we talk about frequencies and spectrums. Well, that's frequencies and spectrums right there. And, you know, part of being able to think on a higher level.
Yeah, I agree
More
with
than
you.
just.
I agree with you now. Well, that's where the co-creative scientific approach comes in, with the right intention and going through that partnership with nature intelligence. That's the tool you would use for the manifestation. Yeah, I suspect we're like what you've mentioned, we're creating these things as if there's like a carpenter out there. A carpenter is putting all this together for us. I do believe in that as well.
Well,
Wonderful.
thank you so much. Wonderful presentation. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're
Wonderful.
welcome.
Lulu, thank you as well very much, and welcome back. Let me jump to Will really. Actually, you know what? Nils had a question first. Nils, would you like to go, sir?
Sure. Just a quick question. We're talking about these contacts, alien contacts, as being biological. Have you given any thought to if this may be these manifestations might be some planetary or like other types of intelligence other than biological?
Yes. Well, I had in there, well, as you, with the biological, but also artificial intelligence. I think there's more of a sway towards that area, certainly within the SETI community. But if you're referring to the UAP, there could well be AI aspect to this as well. It's such a complex area that you know, you really have to break it all down, don't you? You know, to different categories. And as I said earlier on in the presentation, that I think we have 3 core categories we're dealing with there. You know, like the residents that are already here throughout history, and then you have the visitors, you know, coming and going, and then you have, I think, in more recent times with the Tic Tac, there could be an AI aspect to that. That particular category of UAP or UFOs. So you'd wonder actually who's orchestrating all that. If it is AI, you know, where is that coming from? You know, is it below the oceans? Is it in outer space?
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, so let me go to Will really quick. Will, we've got about 3 minutes left, sir.
I was listening to your presentation and the questions, and one of the questions you said you personally created a portal with your own mind. And I was curious, what was your experience in that? Did you go to another planet or another dimension?
Okay. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. You know, it's like everything else in when you're exploring the universe, exploring certainly inner space, all right, besides outer space, because I knew that was the key to it there back in the mid-90s, dealing with the whole UFO area, that we need to explore inner. So anyway, just getting to your question there to do portals, all right. Yeah, so and by the way, this was multiply witnessed as well, all right. So over quite a long period of time, I was actually attracted to one of the megaliths. It was a big standing stone in the middle of nowhere up in the mountains in the southwest of the country. And so I was frequently actually going there thinking, could I like nourish the land through consciousness, rather like the Druids of old, Celtic Druids, going way back to BC times, that is. And so with the help of other people that were into this, I started working on this. And I think it was over 18 months or so. And I was able to get dates. I got these downloads, like dates would come in, and the date wouldn't be just a random date. It would be a repetitive date. So for me, it was like a confirming that this date is important, you know, why this particular date. So anyway, 6 months ahead of time, this area where I'd done a lot of work to consciously, you could say, nourish the land, to support the land and so forth, where the megalith was. So I didn't know what to expect. So when I was there that particular day, and I was with 2 other people, and the next thing happened was that, you know, this is a lovely blue sky, sunny day, had a great sleep, and now I was going to sleep. I was getting really tired. So I sort of lied on the ground and didn't think anything of it. But the other 2 persons that were nearby said that there was this construct appeared in front of us, and that they were paralyzed by it, and that they couldn't actually get to me, like they couldn't move to go to me, that is. But I was asleep for about 2 hours and came out of it. And I did actually research this further through hypnosis. And unfortunately, the hypnotist couldn't hypnotize me because they started streaming blood from their nose in front of me, and saying, well, you know, that this has never happened in their 25 years of hypnosis. And then I went to a metaphysician to find out, well, not actually to find out what happened there, but to find out, well, you know, it's like, what is my background? What's going on with me? And I found out, for this metaphysician said to me, have you been through a portal? And I said, well, actually, I think that's what it was. I went through a portal, but as to what was where I went, I don't know. I may have gone up in subtle body to this construct. I have no idea. I've never, it's like, you know, I've no resistance of finding out, but it's like, I'm quite happy to what I'm doing at the moment. It's just one of those experiences I've had out of actually quite a lot of experiences in many things. But I hope that answers your question, Rieken.
Wonderful. Okay, well, Will, thank you. And so let me do this. Let me mute everybody out again. I'm going to mute all. And we're at the top of the hour. So again, everyone, please put your hands together. A giant applause for Dr. Eamonn Ansbro. Sir, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for speaking and for answering all those questions. Your work is brilliant and it's transformative. So I cannot thank you enough. And I'd love to have you back if you're open to it in the future. But again, thank you for speaking today. So let me do this before we get to our next speaker. Let me do our introduction here.